The artistry of film is so easily overlooked these days. With new, advancing, and affordable technology, even amateur filmmakers can make something visually appealing. By tweaking the settings on the right lenses, a shot can be transformed, altering the meaning of the image. By utilizing the right aperture and focal length, you can create a shallow depth of field, blurring away everything but what you want the audience to focus in on. Visually, this can translate to a close-up, showing the deeply personal experience of a character or the subtle drama unfolding in his internal mind. Increasingly, images like this are becoming easier and easier to produce, and although they can be beautiful given the right circumstances, its oversaturation in film culture leaves something to be desired. Don't get me wrong, a shot like this can work given the right story and circumstance, but just look at how much of this image is not being used. We're all human, we love looking at faces, but it's a simple fact that a shot like this has much less to look at than a shot like this. Even though the canvas size and camera position remain exactly the same, by changing the focal length and aperture, suddenly the meaning is entirely different. My internal life disappears and the audience's eyes can be drawn to different parts on screen. I'm still a character that the audience can draw its attention to if they so choose, but I'm a product of my environment. I'm just as important as everything that's happening around me. I set the shot up in like an hour. There was virtually no effort that went into it, so I wouldn't blame you if you personally like the close-up better. And actually, I sort of do too. I spent good money on these lenses. I better be happy with the image, but it looks better precisely because I didn't have the time, effort, or pre-planning put into place to meticulously craft a wide shot in an overly artistic manner. The careful, deliberate, and masterful employment of the wide shot is what makes Wes Anderson one of the most visually distinct directors of our time. See you later. Wide shots are defined as a camera angle that shows an entire object or person and their relation to what surrounds them. Ordinarily on set, an entire scene is blocked out using the wide shot as reference. There's a tendency for even professional filmmakers to use the master shot for safety, calling it coverage. God damn it, we don't have a close-up of Anakin and Padme embracing? No worries, we'll cut back to the master shot and punch back in when they start talking again. This is a strategy basically as old as film itself. It's very intuitive to the brain's visual language. It's important to see the action take place, and it's hard to see action when you're shooting people from the chest up. Directors almost always shoot the wide shot first for blocking, then punch in for medium shots and then close-ups, and last but not least, inserts of whatever prop might be important in this scene. That's not to say directors don't break from this practice, but if they do, it should always be motivated. That's how well the wide shot works. You need to creatively justify not using it to block your action. The simple yet critical nature of this technique is its own undoing. It seems like directors today see it almost as a chore or an afterthought. Most of the key moments in film history occur in medium shots and close-ups, and only rarely do they occur in wide shots or extreme wide shots.
I am your father.
I'll never let go. I promise.
Pizza time.
And if you think about it, this makes sense on a very human level. Think about how often you neglect a mandatory obligation in favor of doing something you find leisurely, like say, putting off writing a YouTube video in favor of playing video games. Like say, putting off writing a YouTube video in favor of playing video games. Video in favor of playing video games. There's less wiggle room for creativity when there's a mandatory element of your work. No one wants to do something they have to do. And for directors of a film, all the fun stuff you want to shoot usually occurs in character moments, which are more impactful in close-ups and medium shots. And then there's Wes Anderson. If you're like me, you've probably seen more than a few Wes Anderson films and have a pretty good understanding of his style already. Most of his films feel very similar. There's a strong attention paid to dialogue, color palette, and cinematography. His newest film, The French Dispatch, feels like the culmination of his body of work. It's as though throughout his career he was trying to make a statement with his artistic style, but no one was catching on, so he beat us over the head with it. The film's story centers around The French Dispatch, a magazine publication that wrote several prominent articles about French artists. We spend time getting to know the artists, and the visual language that Wes Anderson employs suits each of their individual stories. Film writing can trace its roots back to myths and stories, but film composition traces its roots back to famous painters and paintings of the past. In static canvas paintings, a good artist will try to draw your attention to specific portions of an image. Painters don't have the luxury of making any parts of their image boring, and will usually jam-pack their image with information or stuff to look at. This isn't something that's thought about today. Just because we're viewing pictures 24 times a second every second for the length of a feature, that doesn't mean we can slack on any part of the canvas. No one is obligated to look at your art. People have to want to look at it. This shot finds us in the middle of our first story about an incarcerated artist named Moses Rosenthaler. He's been commissioned by some art snobs to make some paintings, but finds it too difficult. He's also professed his love to Simone, his frequent model that is a prison guard, and she has denied him. It starts as a wide shot. There's a great distance between her and Moses. Up until this point, Simone has not been very forthcoming with who she is. Over the course of one take, she moves closer to the camera, which is in a POV shot of Moses, while speaking about her upbringing. The camera position and angle doesn't change, but the shot morphs to a medium shot and finally a close-up. This new close and intimate angle that invites you into Simone's internal world is genius. It's a decision that feels less informed by the director behind the scenes and more informed by the character that we're watching. Would it have made sense to change the entire camera position and angle to shoot Simone in a close-up? Yeah, it would. But by making that decision behind the camera, you take away agency from the character. Shouldn't Simone be the one to let Moses into her internal world? When the director makes that choice for the character, something is lost in the translation. Less information is portrayed, and the audience becomes more aware of the fourth wall. The camera position and angle would have changed because the director understands film techniques, not because the story would have demanded it. It takes away from the drama. To point out how well this shot is composed, I want to look back a few seconds earlier. This looks like something out of a famous artwork of old. The room is the perfect size and shape to match the aspect ratio of the film. Both characters in this shot abide by the rule of cross thirds. One guard is at the top of the spiral staircase on the upper left third. The diagonals of the railing intersect with the pillar that stabilizes the stairs, adding additional depth to the shot. Simone stands at the lower right third. Her door is broken, and the remnants of the latch and handle lay at her feet. A clue as to how Moses got in here. Centered in frame is the electric chair switch, an object that informs whose point of view we are observing from. Leading lines from the window behind draw your eyes directly to it. As the scene moves forward, different leading lines that were established in the wide shot provide new context to the image. While in close-up, they lead directly to Simone's eyes, which draws us into her performance. Notice how subtitles are employed. Wes Anderson knows exactly where your eyes are drawn to on this image. We're already invested in the character drama unfolding in Moses and Simone's dynamic. Naturally, our eyes wander to the subject. Simone is framed at the bottom of the canvas, leaving a curious amount of negative space above her. As we're focused on her, she starts speaking a foreign language, and the subtitles appear above her in the negative space, and we're meant to read from bottom to top. This is wholly unnatural to people. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any language where you're supposed to read from bottom to top. It goes against everything we've learned in grade school and growing up. Yet it feels completely natural because Wes Anderson knows where the focus of the image is. Our eyes wander from bottom to top to read the subtitles. The frame would have become unbalanced if we had to read it from top to bottom. Her dialogue is segmented so that each line portrays a complete thought to get the audience used to reading this way. The next batch of subtitles pick up exactly where the last batch left off. And now we're meant to read normally, from top to bottom. As we read back down and she pauses, she's now much closer to the camera, and we're meant to take in her performance again. I selected this scene because I think it best illustrates my point, but really, almost every wide shot in this movie is constructed in this way. Every shot in the whole movie could be a painting of its own. It's becoming increasingly rare for a director to pay as much attention to the wide shot as Wes Anderson. The purpose of a director is to think about everything. Nothing on screen should ever be unintentional. Movies are the director's canvas, and all areas of it should be of visual interest. To neglect the simple, tedious things takes away from their intrinsic beauty. Just because wide shots need to exist doesn't mean they need to be boring. So next time you're going to shoot something at a wide angle, take the extra time in pre-production to really think about how you can make the image stand out. Or now, moving forward, if you're ever watching something and you notice a wide shot, maybe pause the movie to see how much effort was put into the little things. Hey there, everybody. I made a wide shot for you. You like how I have wet ones over in the windowsill over there? It really adds to the feeling that this office is fucking disgusting. It's all a charade. Everything past that part of the floor looks like shit right now. I've wanted to do a video on Wes Anderson for a while now, but I wanted to make sure I did him justice because he's one of the most visually distinct directors of our time. Even though I wasn't too fond of this particular movie, especially in relation to some of his other work, that doesn't take away the sheer talent and work put into the visuals. I'd love to hear from you guys. Did you see French Dispatch? Did you like it? What's your favorite Wes Anderson movie? Let me know in the comments down below. If you watched this video all the way through and you liked it, make sure to give me a like. It really helps me out in the algorithm. Also, if you're down there and you've noticed that you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It really, gets my Gets my ego pumping, makes me want to keep making videos. So yeah, go ahead and do that. Until we meet again, watch some movies, and hopefully I'll see you soon.